And for my exercise instruction video, I'm going to be demonstrating the barbell hip thrust. Today is October 2nd, so let's get started. The hip thrust is a horizontally loaded bent leg hip extension bridge exercise. Peak levels of contraction for the hip thrust occur where the muscles are shortest, making it ideal for developing strength where the muscles are shortest. The hip thrust works the hip extensors, especially at end range hip extension, and is useful for achieving maximal gluteus maximus activation. The hip thrust achieves high levels of activation in the upper and lower gluteus maximus, biceps femoris, hamstring muscles, and quadriceps. Although research is limited, one published study indicates hip thrust improves sprint acceleration, horizontal jump, isometric mid-thigh pull force, isometric and horizontal pushing force. Hip thrusts can also be an important part of programming as an assistance exercise because it appears they help improve both squat and deadlift strength. Okay, so now I'm going to show you all how to actually perform the hip thrust. We're going to be doing barbell hip thrust, but to start you need to make sure that you have the proper form without weight. So this is Lucian. He's going to be demoing for us again. And so ideally you'll have a hip thruster, which is the piece of equipment you use to hip thrust, but most people don't. So at the gym you can improvise and use aerobic step-ups and set 4 or 5 of them up on top of each other and make sure you have something keeping it stable behind you because you don't want it to slide back. That keeps you safe. But I don't have that and we're just at home, so we're using my ottoman. You want to use something that's 12 to 16 inches off the ground, and you want to put your shoulders on it and your back on it, and you want it to hit just below your scapulae. So that's what Lucian's doing. And for safety reasons, you want it to be soft, or there be some padding so he doesn't hurt his upper back. So now we'll talk about how you do the hip thrust. So you really want to protect your spine, obviously, which is a concern. So to do that, he's going to keep his chin tucked during the whole movement and his eye gaze forward. This prevents you from going up to the top of the movement and hyper-extending your back. So he's going to do that. He's going to keep his feet about hip width apart, maybe a little wider, turn his toes out, and he's going to drive up through his heels when he does the movement, and this will help us achieve maximal gluteal contraction. He doesn't want his heels to come off the ground, so he's going to keep them driving into the ground through the whole movement. The toes can come off the ground if you want to focus even more on the glutes, but not the heels. And he's going to keep his knees apart throughout the whole movement because this helps activate the glutes too and keeps his knees safe. So he's going to begin by keeping his core tight, pushing up through his heels, and as you can see, his ribs are staying down. He's achieving full hip extension, going through the full range of motion, because with hip thrust, the most gluteal activation is at the top of the movement. So it's important to not cheat yourself and go through the full range of motion. So it's important when you do the hip thrust to make sure you're in posterior pelvic tilt, which means basically bringing your pelvis up towards your ribs like this. It's kind of awkward. And that prevents lumbar hyperextension, as does keeping your chin tucked and your eye gaze forward and really just moving your hips instead of going up, show an incorrect form where you go back too far and hyperextend your spine all the way up like this. See, he's rounding too much, and that's what causes the back pain. So it's really important to have the posterior pelvic tilt, chin tucked, eye gaze forward, brace the core, and push up through the hips. You can do the proper full hip extension, and yep, he's got it. Okay, so now he's ready for the barbell and weights. But actually, straighten your feet, and I'm going to show him how you get it on you. So basically, you simply just roll it towards your lap, and you want it to hit right above your hip bones. Obviously, you don't want your hips to hurt with the added weight, so ideally you will have a padding for your bar to protect your hips and prevent bruising, but we don't have that, so we're improvising again with a yoga mat. So it's literally the same exact form. Chin tucked, eye gaze forward, Knees apart, femurs tracking in line with your feet. Keep knees apart through the whole movement, vertical shins at the top of the movement, and he's going to brace his core, and he's going to push up and achieve the full hip extension, because that's important for maximal gluteal contraction and activation. So, if you want to perform, see? And he's going to come down between each rep, or he can do it without coming down. So, perform that. Keep this steady. And see, he's achieving full hip extension without rounding his spine and keeping his ribs down. And that's it. Okay, so I just want to make sure I properly conveyed the safety information when performing the hip thrust. Basically, the way to stay safe is just to perform it correctly, like with any exercise. So, it's just important to keep your chin tucked, like I said, your ribs down. You want to stay in posterior pelvic tilt, and you just don't want to go into lumbar hyperextension at the top of the movement. And if you have that covered, as well as having a stable thing to rest your shoulders on and padding for your hips, you're covered, and it will be a safe, awesome exercise to increase strength and power.